Has iOS been getting slower and slower and slower over the years? Let's talk.
Back when Ratchet was a Ratchet and the Vixen was a Vixen and Jam Master Jay was alive, I was mixing, cooking coke in the kitchen back when Robin was a piston.
What is the deal, beautiful people? It's your boy Ramon, Lifestyles Defined. Welcome back to another episode of AMA, and if you are new here, you're not sure how this works, you leave your question in the comment section down below and we answer it in upcoming videos. Today's question comes from the homie Phone Daft, and he says, would you say iOS, or would you say Apple iOS software has gotten less polished over the years? I personally only asked this question since iOS 6 for me, I've noticed a complete change in responsiveness. I felt iOS 4, 5, and 6 were so slick. Would love to hear your views on this. Thank you again for the content you provide. Great work. Thank you, sir, for your question and support. So iOS, this is one of the few times that I'm actually going to defend Apple. And let it be known, fuck Apple. I will never quit my day job to defend Apple. But I think what Apple, specifically, let's talk about iOS 11. I think they're making a lot of great touches to the OS, because we get into this conversation about iOS, specifically iOS, when you compare it to something like Android and you go, well, you know, they're not coming out with a ton of features every year, and mainly because, and this is the consensus across the board, iOS as a platform is super mature, and it gets very difficult to add or keep adding or keep a wow factor of something that's mature. And I think they have their spurts. Some years it's just like, whatever. And then some years they just pile on the features. Like what I'm seeing here with iOS 11, and I never really spoke about it in the channel, but a few of the notes I have jotted down from what I've seen are pretty good. Like the lock screen gets some new attention, and they bring back the slide to unlock, which should have left in the first place. But that was interesting because of how fast and quick Touch ID was. So now there's the slide to unlock. You can see old notifications from the home screen, or the unlock screen rather. There's a ton of new animations. A lot of the new animations, I think, give the OS a really playful feel to it. Opening apps sliding in from the left and the right, and sub menus, and the way the icons wiggles different now. And there's a lot of the new, I guess, notifications in the control center, and the control center's got a lot of new stuff in it too, so that's cool. The messaging app gets a revamp, Siri gets a revamp, Apple Maps gets a revamp, and apparently now it has lane guidance, which is a big deal. I mean, who the fuck has a GPS without lane guidance in the first place? There's a new codec for the photos that takes up less space. There's a ton of work they did on the iPad for split view. So they're definitely offloading a ton of features in iOS 11, and they're giving it more of a playful, sort of like when Google went from when Google introduced Materia, it's that playful look to it. I feel like that's where Apple's heading as well. So that being said, I mean, does this come at the cost of responsiveness? Because that was your initial question. I don't think so. You know, one of the great things about Apple, and because it's their hardware and their software and their experience, you can go out and buy like a 5-year-old phone and you'll still get the latest OS. Now, the question is this the move? And I say this because I want to know, what phone are you using it on? So for instance, I'm using iOS 10 on an iPhone 7 Plus. 7 Plus, yeah, and it's buttery smooth. I have no complaints. And my thing is, are you running this on an iPhone 6, not a 6S? You know, maybe if you're running on a 6S, it'll be a little more smoother. Because let's just say not even Apple can get away from that, right? And I think it's dope that they support such older devices, such legacy devices with the new hardware. But there's a cutoff to where the new hardware is just asking way too much resources of the older phones. And that may be what you're experiencing. If not, if you're using an iPhone 6s or using an iPhone 7 and you still think the experience is not as responsive, I would say just hard reset that phone and try again, because I have little to no issues with iOS. I mean, it still feels as simple and bare bones as the day it was when it was iOS 4. Maybe that's just me, or you could nail down some specifics, but I think by and large, iOS versus Android, iOS is still the much more stable, much more smooth of the two. If we compare it to Windows Phone, well, you know how that's going to go. Windows Phone all day, every day, except today because I don't own one. But sir, Phone Daft, as always, thank you so much for your question. Thank you so much for your participation and support on the channel. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. We have plenty more content coming. And when you hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification next to it, the bell. That lets you know when we have a video that goes live right away. My name is Ramon. I'm out of here. Peace. If I had to describe Lifestyles Defined, I would say it is a dream come true to have a platform where we can talk about the things that we love, and we can share with people who also love the things we love the way we love, and just have conversations that matter and go back and forth and grow as a community. It's been a pleasure. It's been a dream, and I just want to thank everyone that's involved for rocking out with us.